Hey everyone, how's it going? For today's video, I'm proud to present an up-close and personal, in-depth look at the all-new 2015 Lexus NX200t F-Sport. And this is going to be a detailed, in-depth review of the NX. We'll start it up to the engine, get an exhaust clip, and go over the performance data, take it on a thorough road test, and show you many of the unique aspects of both the interior as well as exterior. My main goal with this video was to create one of the most in-depth comprehensive reviews of the NX that you can find. Due to the video's length, in the description below you'll find a complete list of timestamps, so if you have a key interest in a particular segment, simply click on the time and it'll take you to that portion of the video. And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and start her up, let her run. Standard equipment on the NX is a remote smart key access system, so you can lock and unlock the vehicle via the touch sensors located on all four door handles. Just make sure you have the key fob within your pocket, locate the little depressed portion right here to lock, accompanied by one beep, then after waiting a second, grab the back of the handle, accompanied by two beeps, and that automatically unlocks the vehicle. This NX is finished in Matador Red Mica and comes paired with a perforated New Luxe leatherette interior with color accent stitching. The interior is specific to the F-Sport model with unique accents thrown out, including special bucket seats. Along with that smart key system, to start, all you have to do is just make sure the key fob is within the interior of the vehicle, put your foot on the brake, and hit the dash mounted button to go. The NX features electrically assisted variable ratio rack and pinion power steering with adjustable feedback based on the drive mode selector in the center console. It's all routed through a sporty 3-spoke leather-wrapped steering wheel with multifunction controls up top and satin silver trim down below. Specifically trimmed for the F-Sport, features perforated leather across the sides, color accent stitching, and badging in the bottom spoke. The NX is an easy vehicle to direct around a corner. It doesn't communicate a whole lot to the driver in terms of road feedback, but the EPS does a fine job in keeping the steering smooth and relatively light. I left it in sport mode most of the time as I like the extra resistance provided, but even in sport mode it's quick to respond and darts right where you want it to. It felt pretty agile overall. There's still some body roll in the corners, but it's well controlled. It's a vehicle you can have fun with, but it's still comfortable, which I'm sure many shoppers will appreciate. Across the lineup, the NX has two available transmissions tied to the two different powertrains. The hybrids receive a CVT with unique kickdown feature for a bit extra grunt off the line, while the turbo receives a more conventional electronically controlled 6-speed automatic. You can shift the vehicle manually via the selector down below, while F-Sport models actually receive paddle shifters mounted behind the steering wheel for a little bit more of an engaged dynamic feeling. A backup camera automatically appears when you put the vehicle in reverse and features adaptive guidance lines in the 7-inch display. The transmission performs like your typical torque converter automatic. It's basically geared more for smoothness, but the gear changes aren't exactly slow, but they're not lightning quick either. Obviously there's 7, 8-speed automatics, dual clutch transmission, so there's a lot to compare it to. But the paddle shifters definitely make it a lot more engaging. I don't know if it was just me or the sensation of shifting it manually, but they felt quicker in sport manual mode. The rev matching downshifts in sport manual mode are extremely fun, especially when going around a corner. You can downshift a few times, keep the vehicle in its power band, and automatically launch out of a curve. Listen closely and watch the tachometer for the next few seconds as I downshift and you can see the vehicle rev matching. Later in the video, I'm going to talk a lot more about the electronic sound enhancer in the F-Sport and how it gives it a lot more of a growl than the standard turbo. A timestamp in the description lets you know when that occurs. As for now, let's go ahead and check out a straight line acceleration shot. With the sound enhancer off, the interior reverts to a level of quiet you expect out of a Lexus. Later in the video, I'm going to have much more driving commentary on what it's like to live with the NX for a week. See the description box below for the timestamps of when that occurs. All doors automatically unlock when you put the vehicle in park, and the shift knob is wrapped in perforated leather with a stitched shift boot. The silver rotary knob to the left-hand side of the gear selector are your 3 different driving modes: Eco, Normal, and Sport. Normal is the default the vehicle always goes to when you power it on, otherwise you could press down on the button to activate Normal. Eco is more fuel economy minded, so it lessens throttle response, modulates the air conditioning, things like that. Sport mode, on the other hand, retunes the electric steering to be a little bit stiffer. You can actually see the different modes activated in the TFT display between blue Eco and red Sport. The throttle response also quickens up quite a bit, making the vehicle feel a little bit more agile and precise. You have an electronic parking brake in the center console with your traction control, in addition to a brake hold feature. When you're driving, you can activate it, and when you come to a full stop, it'll hold the brakes without you having to put your foot on the pedal. So let's go ahead and flip on the standard automatic LED headlamps and LED fog lamps, not to mention the hazards. Like any Lexus, all 4 windows are fully automatic. And we'll go ahead and check out the exterior. The vehicle will also chime a few times, letting you know it's lost detection of the proximity key fob. All new for 2015, the Lexus NX represents the brand's first compact luxury crossover. For its size, it offers a lot in terms of design, technology, and practicality, but what I believe sets it apart in a crowded segment is how it's executed. My week spent with the NX was filled with plenty of driving, with an end goal of really getting to know the vehicle and see what it's all about. Of course, the immediate thing that first catches your eye is the bold styling. As I touched on in my initial review, the original inspiration was first seen with the LF-NX concept vehicle a couple years or so ago. Its radically designed body was the latest evolution of the brand's L-finesse design philosophy, although it's been toned down a good bit for production. With the entire Lexus lineup evolving, incorporating the new spindle grills, more dynamic body lines, and a refreshingly modern interior layout, from the get-go, the NX already had a great foundation laid out for it when it came to bringing some much-needed excitement to the segment. While it's going to be polarizing to some, it's arguably the most dynamic-looking vehicle in the segment. Since it slots in as the 4th and smallest SUV Lexus currently offers, how does it really measure up in terms of size? Compared to the larger RX, the NX is smaller by 5.5 inches in length, 1.6 inches in width, and 1.9 inches in height. Wheelbase is also shorter by 3.2 inches. These dimensions also make it fit kind of in the middle of the segment in terms of overall size, varying as much as a couple inches or so between the competition. Looking at the finer details, the NX proudly displays that new spindle grille, projecting it out like a shark nose, quite a different look compared to the rounded face of the RX. The front bumper also has its own creases and scallops, with integrated fog lamps down below. The headlights echo the styling of the new IS with detached beams and turn signals. LED low beam lights are standard, in addition to LED turn signals and daytime running lamps. Full LED lights with adaptive high beams are also available. An aluminum hood with sharp creases that meet into the top of the grille help limit weight up front. The relatively flat roofline, in addition to chassis and suspension packaging out back, actually preserves rear seat space, making it quite accommodating for an average-sized person. But the sharp rake at the back does decrease cargo a good bit compared to the larger RX. There's an integrated spoiler in the rear, in addition to polished roof rails. Lexus claims the styling is meant to look like it was molded from a single piece of metal. Probably the most defining aspect of this is the prominent body crease that spans across the doors. The spoiler, as well as strategically placed underbody panels, help aid towards a pretty low drag coefficient of 0.34. Another fun fact is that the way the windshield was positioned and affixed to the vehicle actually makes it a structural member aiding to overall stiffness. The acoustic side glass is surrounded in polished trim contrasted by gloss black pillars. LED lights illuminate the upper curve of the door handles at night, while under handle lights illuminate the ground. The rear continues the dramatic body creases, which extend out from the wraparound multi-dimensional partial LED tail lamps across the liftgate and down the flanks. If you look closely, the center of the hatch actually resembles the spindle shape up front. Twin exhaust outlets on turbo models finish up the look. The NX is available in two distinct models, the NX200t and NX300h hybrid. Front-wheel drive is standard with the option for all-wheel drive on both models. The key bit to focus on here is the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, making the 200t the first Lexus and certainly not the last I'm thinking to feature a turbocharged engine. In my eyes, the NX styling is best expressed with F-Sport livery. Only available in the 200t, the F-Sport adds a lot when it comes to a dynamic look and feel. Outside, the biggest change you'll immediately notice is the front. It's a little less rounded and far more bold thanks to a black mesh version of the spindle grille and a lower silver-trimmed chin spoiler. Revised LED fog lamps in the lower fascia help illuminate curves at night. Of course, subtle F-Sport badging on the fenders and trunk signify it further. A blacked out lower rear fascia causes the twin polished exhaust to stand out even further. In addition to styling upgrades, the suspension is also retooled for F-Sport duty, including revised spring rates, shock absorbers, and firmer feeling steering. Higher performance dampers enhance cornering control and precision. While both NX models have the option of all-wheel drive, their design differs between the hybrid and the turbo model. The turbo has what Lexus calls dynamic torque control all-wheel drive. It uses a number of sensors that monitor speed, steering angle, speed of steering, throttle input, and yaw rate to continually vary the transfer of torque between the front and rear wheels. In normal driving, the vehicle still drives the front wheels by default, which conserves a bit of fuel. In other words, all-wheel drive isn't permanently engaged all the time. Only when wheel slip is detected does an electromagnetically controlled coupling in the rear differential housing direct a portion of the torque to the rear, as much as 50%. On the other hand, the hybrid uses a system called E4 all-wheel drive, which uses a separate electric motor to drive the rear axle, varying torque between the wheels when slip is detected up front, in addition to providing extra torque out back to help with slippery starts from a standstill. Like DTC and the 200t, the system only works when necessary, otherwise the rear motor actually acts as a generator for the hybrid regenerative braking system. Standard F-Sports can be had with two different wheel sets, similarly styled, measuring 18 by 7.5 inches. They both feature a 5-spoke layout, each spoke is split into a Y shape. These dark metallic wheels featured here have lower profile 235/55 Bridgestone summer tires, while the other set, a black and machine face wheel, are wrapped in 225/60 all-season tires. Stunning 19-inch forged alloys are also available to help decrease weight by 4 pounds per wheel for less unsprung weight. With the 18-inch wheels and upgraded tires, the NX has been shown to pull nearly 0.8 G in lateral acceleration, easily kept in check by a G-force meter in the instrument cluster that also measures steering angle, throttle, and braking input. Speaking of brakes, the NX stops from 60 miles an hour in less than 120 feet thanks to ventilated disc brakes up front paired with 2 piston calipers and solid discs in the rear with single piston calipers. Providing support underneath is a fully independent suspension composed of McPherson struts in front and double wishbones in the rear, specifically calibrated for the F-Sport. Even though the core chassis, like we talked about earlier, is shared with the Toyota RAV4, the Lexus employs a higher percentage of high-strength steel, welds, and adhesions for superior overall rigidity. Up front, regardless of the drivetrain, the NX features a preloaded differential to mitigate torque delivery, which assists in turning on slippery roads and improves straight-line acceleration and stability, while operating as an open differential at higher speeds. Overall length is 182.3 inches with a width of 73.6 inches, mirrors folded, and a height of 64.8 inches, riding on a 104.7 inch wheelbase. Ground clearance is 6.9 inches, and it's worth noting that the approach angle is actually reduced for the F-Sport, coming in at 16.8 degrees versus 28.7 degrees of the standard vehicle. Departure angle is unchanged at 24 degrees. Curb weight for the front-wheel drive model is around 3,940 pounds, with the all-wheel drive version weighing about 100 pounds more. The NX200t is powered by an all-aluminum 2-liter 4-cylinder boosted by a twin-scroll turbocharger and concomitant intercooler. Featuring double overhead cams, 4 valves per cylinder, and a combination of port and direct fuel injection, the Turbo 4 carries a compression ratio of 10:1 with an indicated red line around 6,000 RPM. Lexus claims the advanced dual variable valve timing system optimizes torque throughout the power band, allowing the engine to start in the auto cycle before transitioning to the more efficient Atkinson cycle, which reduces pumping loss and promotes better overall fuel economy. But what does that really mean? Well, while the NX isn't super fast, it's important to note that priority is placed on overall responsiveness, especially at low speeds with minimal turbo lag thanks in part to a 4x2 exhaust manifold. Combining the cylinder head, exhaust manifold, and intercooler with variable wastegate control is also claimed to promote low-end torque. The water-cooled intercooler is mounted directly on the engine, lowering charge air temperatures. With up to 17 psi of boost, the engine produces 235 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 258 pound-feet of torque between 1,650 and 4,000 RPM. This translates to a manufacturer-claimed 0 to 60 time of 7 seconds for the all-wheel drive model and 7.2 seconds for front-wheel drive. Top speed is limited to 124 miles an hour. As far as fuel economy, the NX requires 91 octane or higher and features a 15.9 gallon tank. Mileage is estimated between 22 miles to a gallon in the city and 28 on the highway, with all-wheel drive models only losing a mile in the city rating. Like we've talked about, the design of the NX really sets a statement, not only for its expressive exterior styling, but the uniquely laid out interior. It's distinct and unlike anything else in the Lexus lineup. A key focal point being the projecting center stack in the dash meant to emulate the spindle grille up front. The F-Sports receive a number of interior changes for a more aggressive look, such as the perforated leather steering wheel, the addition of paddle shifters, drilled aluminum sport pedals, aluminum door entry guards, and upgraded seating. The upper portion of the door panels are wrapped in the soft new luxe padding, along with color accent stitching across the armrest and upper portion that also highlights a piece of silvery aluminum-like trim. You also have all of your power accessories, including your 3-person memory, power windows, locks, and mirrors on the door, in addition to lower storage. 8-way power seating is standard for both the driver and passenger side seats, with the driver gaining an additional 2-way lumbar function. The seats in this particular vehicle, like I said, are unique to the F-Sport model and feature a substantial increase in lateral side bolstering up top and down below. You also have a unique stitch pattern coming across the perforated midsection that can also incorporate both heated and ventilated functions. The upper portions of the backrest are flared out like a racing bucket seat, and they also have adjustable headrests and seat belts. To be perfectly honest, they're some of the most comfortable supportive seats I've sat in lately. It just gives you an extra reason to go take that trip out, take a curvy road or something, because they really are that comfortable. The steering wheel is power tilt telescoping with auto tilt feature, and to the left hand side, if properly equipped, is where all of your adaptive safety systems would go. There's a whole host of them, things like radar cruise, blind spot monitoring, lane departure warning, forward collision warning, things of that nature. Knee airbags are standard, in addition to touch-sensitive LED interior illumination. A sunroof comes at an additional option. One of the other neat pieces of detail is the dash, which is kind of a layered design, so the top part looks like it's stacked on top of the lower portion. F-Sports also receive a bit of unique trim across the passenger side with the perforated portion color accent stitching. So let's go ahead and see how she sounds and take it out on the road. Alright, so we are out on some country back roads, checking out the handling of the NX, going between the different drive modes, getting to use the paddle shifters and all that good stuff. And it's really fun, actually. I've really enjoyed driving the NX so far. I've had it as a press vehicle for a few days now, so still getting used to it and all that, but I've been very excited to get a chance to test and take a closer look at the NX ever since I saw that pre-production vehicle last year. Many of you probably saw that video on the channel already. But for Lexus to enter this compact luxury crossover segment, I mean, they definitely had to kind of step out of the box and do something different. I mean, there's a lot of steep German competition out there that have been out for a number of years now. I mean, you have the Audi Q5, the BMW X3, Mercedes GLK, and even perhaps the smaller X1 and Audi Q3. I always think it's really fun and exciting to see a manufacturer kind of step outside of the box of convention, do something a little bit different, and shake the segment up a little bit. And Lexus has really been on a roll with that with their latest iterations of the L Finesse design philosophy, and the NX is definitely no exception. It is kind of a polarizing body style. I mean, for many people who are just seeing it in pictures and whatnot, it can be a little strange to some. But seeing it in person, it is just gorgeous, especially in this Matador red mica paint. It's very pretty. There's a lot of angles and curves, and I like the LED lighting on the outside. The F Sport definitely makes it look a lot cooler, especially with the contrasting silver lower parts on the fascia and the black mesh grille and whatnot. It just gives it a very mean appearance. It's, in my opinion, I honestly think it's one of the, if not the most aggressive looking body style in the segment. So I, for one, definitely applaud Lexus for doing something different. I mean, with all the cookie cutter designs and shapes that are coming out this day and age, I mean, of course, that's not in every case. Many of the respective offerings have signature cues that tie it well with its own respective brand, but the NX is just so different. It's unlike anything else currently out on the market. I think it's the sportiest looking vehicle of the group, inside and out. And I mean, just driving it around town, here and there, I mean, there's so many people that just rubberneck like crazy trying to get a glimpse at it. I've had a lot of people come up and ask me what kind of vehicle it was. Just, it's got such a futuristic and fresh design to it. I think it'll be really cool to see all of the new Lexus products coming out in a few years who wear the similar philosophy like the new RC. So far, I've briefly talked about how the NX drives, how it performs, accelerates through the different drive modes, how it handles, and all of that good stuff. But in a short summary, the NX is a very fun vehicle to drive. You wouldn't typically, I don't think, associate a vehicle of this class with having driving dynamics or so, but especially when you put it into sport mode, everything kind of firms up, the throttle gets a little bit more responsive. You take the paddle shifters, drop it into second gear, and really launch it out of a curve. I mean, it's very exhilarating. And just like you would expect out of a Lexus, the ride quality isn't too stiff. It's firm enough that you can feel some road imperfections and have some good body roll control in the corners, but it's still very smooth, especially on the highway, so it doesn't lose that signature quality whatsoever. The gear changes are also pretty responsive. I'm surprised. I mean, for a typical 6-speed automatic torque converter setup, I mean, you have your rev matching downshifts, so get into a corner, drop it down a little bit more. It's automatically in the power band, so you can just take off, no interruptions in power or anything like that. Quickened quite a bit in sport mode too. I mean, you have eco mode, which kind of dumbs everything down a little bit for efforts of better fuel economy. Normal is like your everyday driving mode, but for the true sporting enthusiast, putting it into manual mode and clicking that dial over to sport will definitely bring a smile to your face. So now I'd like to talk for a moment about this electronic sound enhancer Lexus has in here for the NX200t. This is a very common technology that's starting to come out a lot more this day and age. I mean, Ford's using it, especially in the Mustang EcoBoost. BMW's using it. I mean, lots of people are using it. You have these cars that have so much sound insulation in them, you can't really extract a whole lot of sound from the engine or the exhaust or so. So I guess just because of that nature, they're starting to put these electronic sound enhancers in here to kind of give you a little bit more sound on demand, I guess, or at least that's what the NX has. So the little dial in the dash, you can dial it all the way down, you can dial it in the middle, all the way up, so there's varying degrees of sound that can be generated throughout the interior. I've tried it in the different modes. I don't notice it quite as much in eco or normal mode, even if I have the dial on, but if I put it in a sport mode, it's definitely noticeable. I mean, the vehicle's relatively quiet under acceleration when you're just normally driving. It sounds like your typical 4-cylinder, I guess. I mean, there's not a whole lot of anything special to it. When you bury the pedal a little bit, dropping down to lower gears, you can hear the turbo spool up a little bit, but that's normal. Once you put the sound enhancement on, and of course, when I do it, I'm going to do it all the way to get the maximum amount of sound, but it really gives it a much more throaty tone, I guess. It's a little bit deeper. You don't hear quite as much turbo noise. It's a little raspier, I guess. So now I'm going to do an acceleration shot first in normal mode with the sound enhancement off, and then I'm going to go ahead and just put it into sport mode and flip it all the way on and see if you can hear the difference. Alright, so first this is in sport mode with the sound enhancer turned off. We're in manual shifting mode, traveling about 10 miles an hour. Let's floor it and compare the sound. Alright, so that was about 60 miles an hour or so. Let's go ahead and reposition it again. 10 miles an hour, first gear, sport mode with the sound enhancer on. It's quite a big difference. So for this last test, we're going to leave it in manual mode, sport mode. I'm putting it into second gear right now. The sound enhancer is off, and I'm going to flip it on or off a few times while I'm accelerating so you can hear the change in note. So let's go ahead and shut her up. Nice solid panels and soft closing glass. So it gradually goes up, slows down towards the top, and doesn't make any loud thud. The NX comes standard with the Lexus premium audio system with 8-channel amplifier pushing sound through 8 speakers. For a little extra kick, this example has the upgraded 10-speaker system, which basically adds a mid-range speaker in the dash and subwoofer out back. It's no Mark Levinson, but it reproduces an excellent crisp sound. Multimedia and optional navigation is routed through the Lexus Inform infotainment system with 7-inch LCD screen in the dash and updated remote touch controllers in the center console, varying whether you spring for navigation or not. Black cloth from the headliner continues down the A-pillars, your side curtain airbags, grip handles up top, and padded visors, with illuminated vanity mirrors. The review mirror is auto-dimming with 3-position garage home link located down below. Up in the top stack you have the microphone for your hands-free Bluetooth telephone, SOS emergency roadside assistance, and touch-sensitive LED interior illumination, so your reading lamps off to the side, and main illumination. Lexus Inform incorporates everything from media and entertainment to seamless smartphone integration, either through Bluetooth phone and audio streaming or the Lexus App Suite and Siri Eyes Free mode with select iPhones. Lexus ditched the mouse controller in favor of 2 new setups. Without navigation you get a rotary controller, otherwise opting for nav includes an LED lit trackpad similar to what you would find on a laptop computer. It uses haptic feedback which emits vibrations as you drag your finger through various icons. Just press down to make a selection. Certain functions also allow you to write commands, similar to systems seen with BMW and Audi. A padded area behind it provides a comfortable resting place for your hand. It does take some time to get used to, and some buyers may prefer the rotary knob for its simplicity, but I do prefer the trackpad over the mouse design. I believe it takes a step out of the equation and simplifies use as you don't have to worry about piloting a mouse to make your selection. Like you saw, just ahead of the trackpad is a home and a menu button. This is the home screen, which basically is a summary layout for your navigation, audio, and vehicle information system. If you hit the menu button, it takes you to this screen, which is all of the main system features. You would then use the trackpad to scroll between the different options, and then pushing down on the pad to make a selection. When you connect an external audio device, that media is going to be routed through, well, the media screen. Like for the iPhone that I have plugged in right now, many of the same features and functionality is going to transfer through the system, such as the category organization, playlists, artists, albums, and more. The bottom right hand corner, you can adjust your sound quality from your equalizer, balance and fade, to digital sound processing, which incorporates automatic sound adjustment for the speed and surround sound. changing the source up top between radio, satellite radio, and the different media functions including hands-free Bluetooth streaming. In addition to repeating and shuffling songs, there's an extra settings menu where you can go a little bit more in depth. As far as the main menu itself, it shows which media device is playing, song information, and album artwork. So while we're on the subject of audio, let's go ahead and check out the radio features. In addition to standard AM/FM, you also have HD radio and satellite radio as standard. Off on the left-hand side, you have all of your preset stations, and there's actually 36 different menus, so it's quite a lot. In the bottom, you have various options and settings going between different categories, bringing up radio text, traffic updates, in addition to the settings that I showed you in the previous screen, and the audio adjustments. You can turn HD radio on or off depending on your preference, not to mention tag songs if you want to remember them later. Of course, it shows all of the station and media information in the middle there. If you go back up to the top and select satellite radio, it actually brings up, I guess I wouldn't really call it album artwork, but it shows like a picture of the artist or something off to the top right, which I think is pretty cool. In addition to just your standard channel list, you can also browse satellite radio via category. So depending on whichever mood that you're in, you can see the select amount of stations that fit that particular genre. Now let's talk climate adjustments. Whereas in addition to the controls in the center stack, which I'll show you in just a second, you can also route all of your inputs through the Lexus Inform system. It's a dual zone, electronic automatic climate control setup with your fan speed in the middle, different zones up top, front and rear defrost, turning it off, as well as passing the air through an air filtration system. It's not too hard to use with the trackpad, but I find it a little bit easier just to use the controls on the center stack. Once you pair the phone, it's a pretty easy process. It imports all of your contacts, call history, and favorite numbers. You also have the ability to voice to text and send email messages. There's a dialing pad and an extra settings menu so you can customize things a little bit further. Now of course there's a lot of different settings to customize and I've talked about them in all of their respective menus, but they're all collectively located within the settings menu on the main screen. Things like traffic, general, voice, audio, phone, navigation, it's very detailed. In addition to storing maintenance records, there's also a whole host of vehicle customization options from door lock settings to light, climate control, and more. I want to also briefly touch on the general screen, which is basically general settings for the system. You could change between blue or brown color schemes, keyboard layout, and most importantly down towards the bottom you can change the feedback force of the trackpad, so the amount of vibration that's sent through. Within the navigation screen, the trackpad behaves a little bit differently. It's very smooth and fluid as you go across the map to manually input a location, but as soon as you get back into the buttons down below, it feels like you're clicking through the buttons like I talked about earlier. So it's definitely pretty cool and lets you be a little bit more aware of what you're actually doing if you're driving down the road. The menus are pretty easy to navigate overall. There's no lag that I detected between the different systems. You can set a home address, put in favorite locations, and so much more. When you connect your smartphone via Bluetooth, you have the ability to access the subscription-free app suite, which incorporates Bing, OpenTable, MovieTickets.com, Facebook Places, and Yelp, in addition to various internet radio apps such as Pandora, iHeartRadio, and Slacker. Information can be either pulled up from the main menu or the home summary menu like I showed you earlier. Within the fuel consumption, it shows the various trip and fuel data in addition to seeing how economical you're driving. Real-time traffic updates with an event list as well as a predictive traffic map. You even have real-time weather updates powered by the Weather Channel. You can check current weather based on your location, fairly recent update, including extended forecasts such as 3-day and hourly forecasts. There's even an interactive weather map so you can keep a little bit of a closer eye on weather around your area. Lexus Insider is a system provided by Lexus where it sends product information, demonstration tools, and more. Within the display screen, you can turn the screen off as well as adjust it, between general functions, contrast and brightness, to your camera settings. So in a nutshell, those are all the basic features of the Lexus Inform system in the all-new NX200t. If you didn't want to use the climate control adjustments through the Inform system, which could be a little tricky to use while driving down the road, you can use the simple controls right here. They're nice and easy to reach, good ergonomic placement, easy to see, and well laid out. So you have your temperature adjustments on either side, fan speed in the middle, different zones, front and rear defrost and heated side view mirrors, as well as the air filtration system. It all displays through the little LCD monitors to either side of the analog clock. Which brings me to another point. I don't know what it is about an analog clock that just screams luxury, but I love how Lexus employed it in the NX. It definitely gives an extra touch of class with a little bit of a modern design to it. Right beneath the projecting portion, you have a slender storage tray right above the CD player and some shortcut keys for your radio. So you have, of course, radio, media, selecting your track, rewind, fast forward, seek, playing, pause, your radio volume and power to the left, and your tune scroll button off to the right. And for easy updating, all of your map data for your navigation is stored on that micro SD card. The soft New Lux outlines the center console with color accent stitching, flows into the back with a large center console. Small rivets on either side of the center console are scripted with the Lexus logo. The gunmetal gray trim also gives a nice modern touch to it. Need a spot to stow your sunglasses? Just pull up on this little flap right here, and it reveals a felt-lined storage compartment. There's also a mirror on the other side. The padded material and strap is also a nice touch. Open up the console, and you actually have a pretty good amount of space. It locks in place so you don't have to worry about falling down. There's a removable tray, it's all lined in felt. You have an extra power outlet, as well as 2 USB ports and auxiliary input for MP3 integration. This is also where your wireless Qi phone charger would go if equipped. This particular one doesn't have it, but I also showed it in a previous look at the NX that I talked about earlier in this video, so if you click the link in the annotation below or in the description box below, you can see what that phone charger looks like and actually watch it in action. As far as the steering wheel, on the right hand side, you have the controls that correspond to your driver information in the TFT display in between the speedometer cluster. This button right here always brings you back to the home screen. You have a back button, up, down, left and right, pushing down to make a selection, all corresponding to the particular menu you're in, and I'll show you that in just a second. The left hand side has all of your radio controls over here, seek, track selection, rewind, fast forward, your off and on hook button for your telephone, and hands-free voice commands.
Please say a command.
Help.
Help. Please wait for the beep. Before saying a command, you can see available commands by saying a menu name, such as Phone Menu or Go to Navigation. Commands from all menus are available on this screen. You can push the talk button at any time to interrupt the prompts. To cancel voice recognition, please push and hold the talk switch. Voice recognition has been canceled.
So you can pretty much control the entire Inform system just through voice recognition if you get familiar with the commands. I also really like the gauges. They have kind of a metallic sheen to them, which gives it a pretty unique look. The gauges are accented in silver rings, and the TFT display incorporates a tremendous amount of information for the driver information system. So in the standard menu that we have here, this is the same home menu I just talked about a second ago, you have your instantaneous fuel economy, things like that, range, eco indicator to see how fuel efficient you're driving, as well as a Lexus first. Well, didn't really make sense for a naturally aspirated vehicle in the past, but being that this one's turboed, it actually has a boost meter. Also shows your oil pressure and oil temperature down below. You even have a lateral G-force meter that also shows the percentage of brake pressure and accelerator input. Tire pressure monitoring system, and a blank screen. Go to the right, brings up navigation data, then audio, any messages or alerts, and various settings. You have all of your lighting controls to the left like you saw earlier, and your intermittent wipers to the right. Change display brightness and toggle between your odometer and trip computers there. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and shut her down. And we'll check out the back seat. The back seat of the NX is very similarly appointed to what you would find in the front. Everything is wrapped in soft touch material in the upper half of the door panels, with the satin silver trim and brushed aluminum accents, contrast stitching, and the F Sport pattern across the new Lux seats. There's a handle right there that could be used to recline the seats or fold them down flat for extra cargo space, and I'll show that during the trunk portion. Not to mention tinted rear glass. The middle of the rear seats is also perforated. So now let's go ahead and hop on in on the other side and check it out a little bit more in depth. The first time I got to sit in the back of the NX, I was pretty surprised by how much room there is back here. Typically, vehicles in this class or any of the sportier type CUVs that have the sharp cut roofline in the back, you typically lose like a few inches of headspace back here, but compared to an RX, there's not a whole lot of sacrifice. I mean, obviously this is a smaller vehicle, so you have a little bit less room overall than you would an RX, but it's highly accommodating, especially people around 6 feet or so. Being this sharp break in the roofline doesn't really start till just past the headrest, all of the massive amount of headroom right here is totally preserved. So let's go ahead and hop on in. It's pretty easy to climb in, just like any regular car. Everything back here also evokes a nice solid thud to it. The back seat is very comfortable for the class. The seats aren't too firm and they're not too soft. They have a good amount of lower support here, a little bit of lateral support across the sides, and definitely a nice amount of lower back support, which I can appreciate. In the middle here, you do have a padded armrest with 2 integrated cup holders. And with this and the padded armrest on the door, you can kind of kick back and relax because both of these seats can recline. So if you grab the handle right here that also doubles to fold the seats if you need extra cargo space out back, I'll show that during the trunk portion in just a second. You just grab it, pull it up, and recline on back. I'm not sure the degree of rake, but it's pretty substantial. And there's other positions in between. You can like raise it all the way up. I mean, I don't know why you would sit this far forward, but to each his own, I guess. There's a high degree of flexibility, like I said. Of course, you can sit 3 people back here, and an interesting fact is there's almost no drivetrain hump right here, so whoever's sitting in the middle won't be encumbered by their knees or anything like that. They can basically sit just like anybody else. Of course, it's just a smaller area right here. All 3 of the headrests are adjustable. The seatbelt for the middle person is mounted up in the headliner towards the rear glass. You do have your child seat anchors up there as well. Side curtain airbags, grip handles up top, coat hooks, and rear LED illumination. A couple of air vents down there keeping everything ventilated, 2 storage pockets, and overall interior space. I mean, I'm 5'10". I probably have a good 2.5 or so inches of wiggle space for my head, and oh gosh, maybe 5 inches or so of leg space. I mean, there's plenty. Overall, it's a very comfortable, very well-appointed interior for the class. It's a nice environment overall. Like I said, I was very surprised the first time I saw it. Lexus did an outstanding job with making sure that all the passengers, whether it be 4 or 5, are treated in the most absolute comfort possible for this size vehicle. So, let's go and check out the rest of the vehicle. While not shown here, the NX does have the option of a power liftgate with programmable memory height. When non-powered, the hatch isn't heavy to operate or anything like that, so unless you need it for whatever reason, be it personal preference or a physical need, I would suggest saving the money or putting it towards another feature. It opens up into a good amount of cargo space, 17.7 cubic feet behind the rear seat. A privacy cover can be easily unclipped and removed for taller items. Extra illumination at night is provided by 2 lamps to either side, while lower cargo tie-downs can be used to secure extra items. There's a rear 12-volt power outlet and brushed aluminum entry guards. Going along with the option of a power liftgate, the NX is also the first Lexus vehicle to offer the option of power folding 60/40 split rear seating. This one doesn't have it, but the manual controls are quite easy and self-explanatory. If equipped, you can raise and lower the seats via buttons on the instrument panel, on the side of each rear seat, and even in the luggage compartment. When the rear seats are folded down, trunk space swells to 54.6 cubic feet. Lifting up on the trunk floor, and you have your spare tire well, in addition to a little bit of extra storage and your jacking equipment. Another pretty cool thing is when equipped with a premium audio system like this one has, the 10-speaker setup, the rear subwoofer is mounted in the liftgate. The passenger seat features the same power adjustments that you find on the driver's seat, only it doesn't have the extra 2-stage lumbar. Down below, you do have a locking glove box. That's a pretty good amount of space, actually. It's all lined in velour. Extends back quite a way. Not bad at all. If you're looking for a small luxury crossover that's sporty, efficient, and modern, the NX is quite the worthy competitor. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with the NX. It offers a fresh new look and fun driving dynamics while offering a surprising level of comfort. Kudos to Lexus for daring to be different and having the desire to shake things up a bit. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the all-new 2015 Lexus NX. Be sure to stay tuned next time, there's a lot more where that came from. Take care everybody.